Captain Ibrahim Traore, who is just 35 years old, is currently the youngest head of state in history. Ibrahim Traore, who gained control after a successful coup in September 2022, is now Burkina Faso's president, the head of the military and arguably the most powerful person in Africa. He is enacting extraordinary changes that resulted to the deaths of dictators like Muammar Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein. He is indeed. The situation is very serious. Additionally, he is engaged in a conflict that is hidden from public view. Because of this, he has been the target of 2 coup attempts. We are all aware of the coup plotters. However, how is he bringing about changes that prior African leaders were unable to? How has he displaced France and reclaimed what is rightfully his, making him the center of attention not just in Africa, but in the entire world? Better yet, we should inquire as to how he is frightening the West and France, threatening their dominance and emerging as a new powerhouse. Discover this, and learn why he is a leader that Africa will never have again. In the province of Muhun's Kera, Bondokui, Ibrahim Traore was born in 1988. He received his early schooling in Bondokui, and later went to a secondary school in Bobo Dioulasso, where he developed a reputation for being quiet but extraordinarily talented. He started his quest toward higher education in 2006 by enrolling at the University of Ouagadougou to study geology. Traoré participated actively in the Association of Muslim Students and the Marxist Association National des Étudiants du Burkina throughout his time in college. He received praise for his commitment to standing up for his peers in many conflicts. Traoré made a dramatic career change in 2009 when he enlisted in the Burkinabe army. After completing his studies at the esteemed George Namawano Military Academy, he was sent to Morocco for specialized anti-aircraft training before being posted to an infantry battalion in Kaya, a town in northern Burkina Faso. Traoré's military career advanced quickly over time. He joined MINUSMA, a UN peacekeeping unit actively involved in the Mali War, after achieving the rank of lieutenant in 2014. The recognition of him as a member of the MINUSMA soldiers in 2018 brought his bravery to light, who showed bravery amid significant rebel raids in the Tombouctou area. Traoré served with MINUSMA for a while before returning to Burkina Faso to take part in operations against the growing jihadist insurgency. He took involved in a range of counterinsurgency operations, 2019's Otopuanu offensive included. He was promoted to the rank of captain in 2020 as a result of his commitment and leadership abilities. Traoré lost faith in Burkina Faso's administration during this time, after observing the soldiers stationed there with subpar equipment and political personalities embroiled in corruption scandals. He became the voice of the disgruntled soldiers stationed in the north, expressing their displeasure with how the government was managing military affairs. Thus, Traoré was crucial to the Burkina Faso coup d'état in January 2022 that gave rise to the military junta de power, a patriotic movement for protection and restoration. He did not, however, seize control for himself. Rather served as a tool in the successful coup. He was in charge of an artillery unit in Kaya starting in March 2022 after the coup. Traoré was involved in the preparation of a second coup as a result of growing frustration with the junta's failure to effectively combat the Islamist insurgency, particularly among younger officers who had first-hand experience on the front lines. He and other officers attempted to convince Damiba, the head of the junta, to return his attention to the uprising, but ultimately they opted to depose him due to his conflicting objectives. On September 30th, the coup took place when Traoré was still a captain. The Cobra unit provided assistance for the mission. Traoré proclaimed himself the new head of the patriotic movement for protection and restoration immediately following the coup. Thus, he became head of state and supreme commander of the armed forces on October 6th and was named interim president. The coup took place as Turkey and Russia worked to expand their influence in the Sahel. These activities included the Wagner Group, whose founder, Yevgeny Prigozhin, died. Until the Wagner Group uprising in June 2023, had been a loyal ally of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Additionally, France, the main ally of the Sahel countries in their struggle against Islamists, had come under increasing criticism. Many in Burkina Faso preferred Russia to replace France. Within the following 6 months, France might witness how it is expelled from Burkina Faso. Heavy gunshots and explosions in different areas of the capital Ouagadougou, signaled the start of the coup early in the morning. Cobra unit soldiers wearing masks built blockades, particularly in the city center. Damiba's main center of operations, Camp Babassi, saw clashes, while the Koshiam Palace saw gunfire. State TV stopped airing. The administration terminated negotiations with the coup plotters, and the government was ineffective. Due to Damiba's incapacity to deal with the escalating Islamist insurgency, Captain Traoré announced his dismissal in the evening. He established a curfew, put a halt to political and civil society activities, shut down the borders, and suspended the constitution. Traoré abolished the government and the temporary legislative assembly, the new junta, which he had commanded, and proclaimed himself the new leader of the patriotic movement for Safagwar and restoration. Accused Damiba of making an effort to escape and stage a counter-coup. Damiba disputed these charges. In the end, Damiba demanded specific guarantees, including as the safety of his allies, security, and the fulfillment of vows to restore civilian authority within 2 years, as made to the economic community. And religious and community leaders mediated a resignation agreement. States in West Africa. With the aid of army officers, Damiba resigned and fled to Togo. Captain Ibrahim Traore quickly seized control and held Burkina Faso in his grasp. For the first time in years, Burkina Faso experienced a coup with the goal of ousting France and strengthening the nation. Ibrahim Traore was prepared to accept the burden once he realized that his argument was compelling and that the public agreed with him. He began a full-fledged operation that nobody anticipated. He first gave the order for all French officials and troops to evacuate Burkina Faso. He had a strict no-tolerance policy, and no amount of discussion would cause him to change his mind. He observed how France manipulated and blackmailed presidents while he was in the military. Therefore, he made the decision to first remove the French soldiers who served as a blackmailing force. The military administration of Burkina Faso demanded that French troops stationed there depart within a month. The official Agence d'Information de Burkina made the announcement. This was more than just a reflection of the deteriorating relationship between France and its former colony, as a result of the September 2014 military coup. It was evidence that Burkina Faso had made its allegiance clear. It was not with France. The AIB said that the military administration has revoked a 2018 military agreement that had permitted the presence of French troops in the nation. The decision was not yet final at the time. The choice was still in progress. In Burkina Faso, France had about 400 members of its special forces deployed. In spite of France's best efforts, it soon became clear that Captain Ibrahim Traore would only accept a troop withdrawal as a solution. It had become evident that French troops, despite being present on Burkinabe soil with heavy equipment and having significant intelligence power, were powerless to stop terrorism. The defense was that the French soldiers weren't there to combat terrorism, but to make sure French influence was apparent. As a result, Burkina Faso needed to get rid of them. You should be aware that Ibrahim Traore did not act like a dictator by making these judgments all by himself. Instead, he was able to read the mood of the populace, and it was clear that they wanted the French troops to go. For this reason, hundreds of Burkinabes had gathered in the nation's capital, Ouagadougou, to protest against France and call for the ambassador's removal, together with the closing of its military outpost in Burkina Faso. In addition to Russian President Vladimir Putin, they had put up sizable posters of the leaders of Mali and Guinea, who had also both seized power in coups. As a result, France declared that it would remove its troops within a month, because it had no other choice except to hold on to Burkina Faso. The French era in Burkina Faso came to an end with the departure of the on-foot soldiers who had protected French interests and influence there. Cut roots were present. The only option was to eliminate the criminal groups plundering Burkina Faso. At that point, Captain Ibrahim Traore made the decision to take back the French-owned gold mines in Burkina Faso. Please remember to thumbs up, share, and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more content about Black identity, culture, history, and civilization. Let's move on now. You should be aware that the military leadership of Burkina Faso is actively pursuing a plan to expand local gold processing, attempting to retake control of the nation's main source of income. This action is a reaction to the sharp reduction in gold production, which fell by 15% the year prior. Burkina Faso, a country in West Africa that relies heavily on gold exports, is currently thinking of establishing a gold refinery in order to increase the value of its precious metal mining operations. Ibrahim Traore, the interim president, emphasized the significance of this refinery, stating that the sector has to prioritize this important transformation. In 2020, gold made up 37% of Burkina Faso's total exports, which was a significant amount of the total. The production numbers, however, paint a different picture. Estimates indicate that production fell from 68 tons to 58 tons in the prior year. Captain Ibrahim Traore declared that he would establish a body to supervise all gold mining activities. This organization will make sure that the gold extracted from Burkina Faso is used for the benefit of the nation rather than to enrich France. Additionally, the gold is being utilized to construct Burkina Faso's new port. However, in France, Captain Ibrahim Traore is changing up his allies and favoring Russia over the West. It was Muammar Gaddafi who accomplished this. Gaddafi reached out to Russia and admitted that it was in the national interest of Libya, rather than viewing the West as its ally and relying solely on it. Ibrahim Traore is currently acting similarly. He makes decisions by taking into account who can be a greater strategic ally and who can be a better ally, as opposed to making Western adversaries its own foes. Is from Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traore has emphasized Russia's importance as a strategic ally, while disputing claims that Russian mercenaries aid Burkinabe soldiers in their conflict with militant organizations linked to Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Given the rise of anti-French sentiment in some areas of the region, attention has shifted to Ouagadougou's connections with Moscow. He claimed to be unaware of the state of affairs in the area in February. After canceling a contract that had allowed France to fight armed groups there since 2013, Burkina Faso evacuated French troops. In an unprecedented broadcast interview, Traoré answered inquiries regarding Burkina Faso's international supporters in the protracted conflict, which over the past 10 years has claimed thousands of lives and uprooted around 2.5 million people throughout the greater Sahel region. The French army's departure does not imply that France is no longer an ally, Traoré made clear. We also have strategic partners. We've developed fresh ways to work together. For instance, Russia is a key ally. By saying this, he made it abundantly plain that a nation might have two strategic friends that are at odds with one another. The West has adopted a colonial master mentality. They want all nations to sever ties with Russia solely because they view Russia as an adversary. Burkina Faso would not abandon one critical friend in order to appease another, according to Captain Ibrahim Traore, who has denied this. See, Western countries are worried about Russia's growing influence in the Sahel and surrounding areas. After the Malian military government started working with the Russian military contractor Wagner Group to battle armed groups, France withdrew its personnel from Mali last year. Despite France's continued involvement in Mali since 2013, the country's former colonial rulers lost Malians' trust after failing to defeat the rebels. Additionally, the Russian government now controls the Malians. Captain Traoré was also interested in the propaganda apparatus of the West. As a result, he began to tighten down on French media outlets in Burkina Faso. The military junta in Burkina Faso took the necessary action of suspending the French publications and news outlets that were disseminating Western propaganda. The suspension followed reports of tensions and unhappiness among the nation's military services, which the junta believed to be unfounded, according to an official statement. The latest incident in a growing campaign against French media is the magazine Jeune Afrique's suspension. Since Burkina Faso's military government took over last year, the junta accused the magazine of distributing false information to stir up turmoil and aiming to undermine the authority of the armed forces in their official statement. The junta had already suspended French-funded broadcasters Radio France Internationale and France 24 prior to the suspension of Jeune Afrique. Allegations that these media sites gave a platform to Islamist terrorists engaged in an insurgency across the Sahel region south of the Sahara led to these bans. Two French journalists who were employed by the publications Le Monde and Libération were removed from Burkina Faso in April. The suspension, according to Libération, was unjustified, stating that both of the journalists' paperwork was in line and that they had perfect honesty. The suspension of the French television news program Le Chien Info is the latest result of the crackdown on foreign media. According to the junta, LCI's coverage of a jihadist uprising lacked neutrality and credibility. France is unable to use its power to stop Captain Ibrahim Traore after discovering that every aspect of Burkina Faso has become immobilized. Previously, any time African presidents did something against French interests, France would conduct coups in those nations. While French media outlets and journalists defended the coup carried out against France's will, French troops threatened to use force and encouraged military rebellions. However, since Captain Ibrahim Traore rendered these components unusable, France is now without any means of replacing him. Additionally, Captain Ibrahim Traore declared that elections are not the country's top concern when compared to security. Fears in France have come true as a result. This ensures that Captain Ibrahim Traore will remain in charge for an ambiguous amount of time and prevents France from having any influence in Burkina Faso. At first, Traoré vowed to lead the nation back to democracy and hold presidential elections by July 2024. He has, however, just revealed his plans to invade France, to start the process of changing the constitution in order to better serve the interests of the general public. "Let me be clear," said Traoré. "Security is the main priority, elections are not." He is aware of how France can use its clout if he cedes control and enables a civilian to become leadership. He therefore wants to amend the constitution to prevent France from ever using blackmail to remove a civilian president. He won't allow elections till that time. President Ibrahim Traoré is distinct from the other presidents who have previously led Burkina Faso. We African heads of state must stop acting like puppets that dance whenever the imperialists tug our strings, he declared bluntly. No one has ever made such audacious claims before. He made comparisons to Thomas Sankara, who, like Traoré, had seized power in Burkina Faso following a coup. His legacy is that of a revolutionary who cherished Burkina Faso and wished for the independence of his homeland. This is the justification behind Captain Ibrahim Traoré's praise as a reincarnation of Thomas Sankara. All French ambitions to install a puppet president of their choosing have now been dashed in light of what Captain Ibrahim Traoré has accomplished at such a young age, and without any intention of holding elections. France is afraid of what Ibrahim Traoré may do next, and has decided not to stage any further coups against him. It is obvious that he wanted it that way because he has successfully destroyed all French components in Burkina Faso. To prevent blackmailing against the changes he would undertake, he initially planned to utterly exclude France. How do you feel? Can Captain Ibrahim Traoré bring back to life and realize the aspirations of African leaders like Muammar Gaddafi and Nelson Mandela? Is he not more capable of fending off any interventions and challenges to his rule? Tell us if he is capable of uniting Africa and making it the world's most powerful continent. Would you like to see more movies like this one? If so, click the bell icon next to our channel and subscribe. We have made the decision to present videos about something no one discusses: Black culture, civilization, history, and proof of how admirable blacks have been. Stay tuned until the next video, and thanks for viewing.